Hey there everyone, and today I want to tell you 10 things I wish I knew sooner about mental health. Hey there everyone, my name's Dave, aka Mindset by Dave, and I've been a mindset and mental health coach for the past 4.5 years, helping people get unstuck with whatever it is that holds them back up here. As well as content here on YouTube, I also stream live on twitch.tv/mindset by Dave every Tuesday from 10 AM till 4 PM and every Saturday from 7 PM till 10 PM. And we've also got the Discord if you want to come along and chat with like-minded individuals. We are growing one of the greatest peer support networks on the planet right now. Links to all that below. Anywho, on with the content. So an important thing to know about me before we go into this, if you don't already know, I live with type 2 bipolar disorder. So I've lived my life with a mental illness. And quite frankly, a lot of the things now I wish I had known when I was younger. So I've put together my list of 10 things that I wish that I'd have known when I was younger. And I think that other people who have mental health would probably really benefit from knowing these 10 things too. Number one is that an improvement in quality of life can be achieved within all mental illnesses. Now, I'm very specific with my words here, an improvement within a quality of life. Not all mental illnesses can be pathologically improved. Some of them are degenerative and some of them continue to get worse. However, a level of improvement can be attained. And I wanted to start with this because an improvement in quality of life, there are ways to live better with a mental illness. And they are different from person to person. But I wanted to start with this because I want to start with a message of hope. There is hope out there, and you may not be able to get the level of being fixed, which you're not even broken, but that the person down the street has got, and it may not be equal throughout every mental illness. However, there is a level of improvement that can be made within each of those mental illnesses. So keep hold of that hope and actually maybe follow some of the rest of these ideas from the rest of this video to help improve that quality of life. Number two, things don't get better with age, they get better with work. I literally grew up looking at the statistics of the fact that suicide was the biggest killer of men under the age of 30. And when I made it to 30, I was like, cool, I've aged out of it now. But it's not about that. Two people at the same age that have done completely different work will have a completely different outcome. And the person that has done no work on their mental health will have got nowhere. Someone who could get to 70 and have done no work on their mental health, whereas someone could get to 17 having started working on their mental health at 14 and actually be further along with the understanding of their condition and the ways in which they can actually productively live their lives or safely live their lives. It isn't guaranteed. Aging up is guaranteed. Leveling up is optional. Number three, there is absolutely no shame in medication. I hate the stigma within the mental health industry, but I particularly hate it around medication because a lot of that stigma comes from within the mental health industry and within the people who actually suffer and struggle with their mental health. Whereas with stigma about mental health conditions tends to come from the outside, we actually are self-stigmatizing around this thing. And medication, it is an important part of the journey for many, many people. And it is not only important, it is an essential part of the journey for a lot of different conditions. Always speak to your doctor for any medication, whether that is coming on or whether that is coming off. A doctor should always, always, always be part of the process in this, an important, integral part of the process of this. And also, we're going to talk about this with a little bit with therapy in a minute, but it's about getting on the right medication. Be honest with your doctor. Tell them what side effects you're experiencing. Tell them about your experience of being on the medication. And don't keep things bottled up about that, because those little pieces of information to you might be the big piece of information that helps your doctor find the right medication for you. Number four, while we're talking about medication being something you might need to find the right one, you might need to find the right therapist too. Therapy is a little bit like dating, right? Okay, when you go on a date, you don't automatically find the right one on the first go. In fact, it's very rare for that to happen. But that doesn't put you off dating for life. At least I hope it doesn't. Now, with therapists, we hear a lot of stories about how many times a person's had a bad experience with a therapist, and then they suddenly then write off therapy as a potential option. I actually can't remember the number of therapists I've worked with. What I can say is that there were 2 in particular that were very, very good. I actually don't really remember too much about the ones that weren't. I just know that it didn't click. But for me, finding the right therapist, a person that not only had the knowledge to be able to help me, but the understanding, the empathy to be able to help me, that was a key part of me getting to be more well. It is a lot like dating, is that fact that you have to, if it doesn't go well with one, you move on to the next. You move on to another one. And I know that might sound like a lot of work and terrifying, especially if you get tired from having to tell your story over and over again. But trust me, it is so much worth the effort. Number 5, so many more people out there understand mental health than you think. The most common thing I've had, there has been some stigma, there has been some people not understanding my mental health when I open up about it. However, the most common thing I've had over the past 5 years, whilst I've been actively opening up about my mental health, either on social media or in real life events, has been people saying, oh, wow, me too. You know, I've experienced some of that as well. And I've never spoken to anyone about it. In fact, I felt myself quite weak, but I saw you talking about it then and you seem strong with it. So I'm actually feeling like I want to open up about it now too. And you'll get more of that than the people who will misunderstand. Yes, there will be people that misunderstand, and we're actually going to be making part 2 of this video, specifically for 10 things that I wish more people on the outside of mental health understood. But please do know that so many more people understand, and the condition you have is probably a lot more common than you think. And there are a lot of people out there that would give you empathy. They just haven't spoken up yet. They're probably in the same position of you. And it becomes that sort of catch-22. If I speak up, more will speak up, but I actually need other people to speak up, so I've got the confidence to speak up. Speak up and see for yourself. Number 6, if you seek out help early before the condition gets too serious, it will be a lot more easy to integrate that type of help into your life and for that help to be productive for you. This is a hard one because ultimately, if we're feeling kind of okay, we don't want to maybe dig a little bit deeper, and the potential for, especially if you're having a good day, right? You don't want to dig any deeper on that good day and then actually maybe ruin the good day. But the thing is, most people do wait until rock bottom in order to actually get help. Now, there is a little bit of a stigma. I know this is the case in the UK, and I think some people have told me in the US it is too, that for certain medical services, we need to be bad enough in order for them to actually look after us. So if you're feeling that something is building up, then those direct medical services probably aren't going to be the place to go. Maybe speaking to your general practitioner, maybe self-referring yourself to a therapist, or maybe going and actually using a peer support network. There is going to be something coming up in a bit about how there is more support out there than you know of. But using some of these things to actually get support, it's okay to reach out for help with what you may consider to be a minor problem. And the thing about minor problems is if we treat them while they actually are minor, then they never become major. Number 7, as I've just said, there is a lot more help out there than you know of. It's just quite hard to find. This is a big problem now in terms of raising mental health awareness. Half of the battle is raising mental health awareness of the problems and the conditions that exist. The other half is actually trying to raise awareness of the charities, organizations, and individuals that are doing something to try and help with those particular issues. These people do exist out there, and through working on this channel and through working on Twitch and working on my podcast, I've met hundreds of these people throughout the last 5 years that are out there helping with specific conditions. Sometimes these are sort of annexes of the medical service, other times they are individuals or organizations that have independently set up after the loss of a loved one to a specific condition. One place, if you're in the UK, I recommend checking out is hubofhope.co.uk. They call it the Just Eat of mental health, where you can actually pop in your postcode and you can find what is available in your local area. If any Americans are watching, I was told a global site yesterday, which I would need to dig back up the actual address of, but the Americans were handing out this global site where you can actually find help for your country wherever you are in the world. And it's a directory that helps you discover the help that is already already there. It might not be the 2 or 3 options that you've been conditioned to think of. Your emergency phone number, for example, that you've been conditioned to think of through your life. There might be an alternative option for you to get the help that you need. Number 8, and this is a hard one to take, you will need both external and internal help, okay? Within the mental health industry, we often hear the discussion of whose responsibility is it to look after mental health. Is it the responsibility of the individual, the person who suffers, or is it the responsibility of society, the doctors, other people? The answer is both. The argument itself is kind of redundant. The argument we should be having is how much help does an individual need from themselves versus how much they need from the outside. That is something that varies between all of us, and there actually is no harm. We often talk about reaching out and getting external help. There is actually no harm in doing internal work and working on yourself, providing that internal work is working. Things like stoicism are actually of great value still if a person is able to use the tools of stoicism in order to manage their emotions and to manage their condition. However, some people might be able to use 40% of that and need 60% of help from the outside. We couldn't possibly know on an individual basis. However, we've got to stop looking at it as it's either all society's fault or it's all the individual's fault, and actually say, well, what can we each individually do to help? Number 9, you are not weak, the journey is just difficult. You may have heard that as a poem on my page, and I will link to it above right now. Basically, when we look at ourselves as the problem, when we say things like, I'm broken, I'm the problem, it's all me, I'm the one that's wrong, when we do that consistently, that only negatively impacts our mental health. Yes, as I've just said, we do need to take a level of responsibility for our own recovery. However, that's a lot different from beating ourselves up and berating ourselves and thinking that the problem is us all the time. The problem is often not us. The problem is the problem. The problem is the condition. The problem is the environment that you might live in. These are the things that can be changed and can be managed and can actually make a big difference if we start looking at the problem of actually, how could I do this rather than why can't I do this? Why can't I do this will always lead back to the condition that you have, you necessarily being broken, which is not the narrative that we want right now. How could I do this will lead us towards being solution focused, looking at the problem and looking for a way in which we can handle this. You are extremely strong. If you have lived your entire life with some sort of mental illness, you are amazingly strong. You are a warrior. You are fantastic. You are not weak. You are strong. And number 10, this too shall pass. Now, this is probably something that you've heard a million times before. It's one of the most common quotes out there in mental health. However, for me, if I'm perfectly honest, it was the most powerful one. I was struggling with bipolar disorder in the fact of feeling that I'm either up here or down here, and this one up the top comes crashing down and the one at the bottom stays there forever. And those were the narratives that I was telling myself. Thinking about holding on to things, if I hold on to this glass for 10 seconds, it's not very heavy. If I hold on to it for 10 minutes, it becomes a bit heavier. If I hold on to it for 10 hours, it's getting really heavy. And if I have to hold on to it forever, as soon as my mind knows I have to hold on to this forever, it becomes obscenely heavy. Because you're not just thinking about holding it, you're thinking about it multiplied through time. Now, if you think that your emotions, how they are right now, are going to be like this forever, then suddenly they become multiplied. And that's the same problem, is those emotions, they are hard enough to bear as it is if you were to think, well, I've only got to handle these emotions for another 10 days or another 10 minutes. Whereas if you think I've got to handle these emotions for the rest of my life, it makes things significantly more difficult. This too shall pass. Remind yourself of it. The good stuff will pass, unfortunately. The bad stuff will also pass. But you know what? It's good that the good stuff passes. And it's good that the bad stuff passes, because we totally and utterly appreciate things through comparison, through relativity. We don't have an objective value. We couldn't be objectively happy 100% of the time, because then happy would become normal. So that's it, my 10 tips. If you've got another tip that you think that would be great for this, pop it in the comments below and let's continue the discussion there. Remember, if you've enjoyed this content, please hit that subscribe button. It is priceless to you, but priceless to me. And again, there is the Twitch streams every Tuesday from 10 AM till 4 PM, every Saturday from 7 PM till 10 PM, and the Discord. I would love to have you involved in the conversation and go a little bit deeper with you. I'll see you soon.